Welcome in, everyone. I am so glad you carved out a little time for yourself today. As a psychologist, I sit with clients all the time who are just completely frustrated by the people around them. It's totally normal, right? Well, in today's explainer, we're going to turn that clinical lens inward. We're going to explore what our social judgments actually reveal about our own inner worlds. Think of this as a personal consultation, a safe space for us to examine the psychological mirrors we hold up every single day. Let's get right into it. Okay, so picture this. You're sitting in a packed, noisy cafe, and at the table right next to you, you happen to overhear a conversation. Someone is just passionately criticizing a coworker. They say, "He is truly arrogant, always trying to impose his opinions on everyone else." Instantly, your brain goes to work, doesn't it? You form this vivid image of a conceited, totally unpleasant guy. You don't even know him, yet your judgment feels incredibly solid, almost tangible. But let's hit pause for a second and look a little deeper. Why did that speaker choose the word arrogant? Why not confident or, assertive? Why that specific label? In therapy, we pay really close attention to the exact words people use because words are never just random. They are carefully, almost surgically selected by our subconscious. Which brings us to our first section, the face of judgment, a mirror to the self. So in social psychology, we understand that judgments are rarely these objective, high-definition photographs of reality. Not at all. What we perceive in others is heavily filtered through our own beliefs, our insecurities, and our values. Every single evaluation leaves a psychological trace of the evaluator. And to understand why this happens, we really need to look at psychological projection. It's one of the main mechanisms we unconsciously use to defend our self-esteem when we're feeling threatened from the inside. So what is psychological projection? Basically, it's a defense mechanism. When we have traits, desires, or emotions that we absolutely cannot accept within ourselves, our ego pulls a clever little magic trick. We take those messy characteristics, hurl them onto someone else, and then criticize that person for having them. It creates this nice, comfortable psychological distance. It allows our ego to completely avoid confronting our own personal deficiencies directly. And this perfectly illustrates exactly how projection operates out in the real world. Let's say someone is deeply insecure about their own honesty. Maybe they cut corners at work or tell white lies they secretly feel guilty about. That person will often become hypersensitive to any perceived deceit in others. Condemning someone else isn't just a moral stance. It's a temporary, soothing escape from their own psychological discomfort. They're basically broadcasting, "Hey, I'm not the dishonest one, they are." All right, moving on to section 2, when criticism rebounds, trait transferred. Projection isn't the only way our words type back to us, though. There's this wild phenomenon called spontaneous trait transference. When we describe another person using a specific trait, say calling someone manipulative or neurotic, listeners unconsciously associate that exact trait directly with us, the speaker. The words literally bounce back and stick to you. If you're constantly calling the people around you stupid, well, the people listening are going to subconsciously start associating stupidity with you. Crazy, right? To really grasp the machinery behind this, we've got to turn to Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman and his concept of System 1 thinking. System 1 is our brain's fast, automatic, highly associative mode. It's the autopilot. When you hear the word arrogant, System 1 instantly fires up a whole network of associations in your cognition. It doesn't stop to logically parse out who is who. It just rapid fires those connections. And this builds a pretty tangled web in our heads. See, System 1 is incredibly fast, but it is notoriously sloppy. It completely fails to distinguish between the person being described, the evaluator, and the person doing the describing, the evaluator. The lines just blur together. So those negative characteristics become psychologically superglued to the speaker. Without even realizing it, you are sketching a psychological portrait of yourself every single time you judge someone else out loud. Which brings us right to that famous old saying, "What you say about others says something about you." We usually just treat that like a folksy cliche, right? But from a psychological standpoint, it has a profound empirically backed foundation in dual processing. A huge chunk of our social judgments are happening automatically, completely in the background, without any conscious awareness. Truly, your words are a direct reflection of your cognitive state. And that brings us to section 3, the totalitarian ego, the illusion of objectivity. So if our judgments are this heavily biased, why are we always so fiercely convinced that we're being completely rational? Well, Kahneman explains this illusion of objectivity through a great acronym, YSIAT. It stands for What You See Is All There Is. Our fast System 1 thinking does not naturally go looking for missing information. Nope. Instead, it rapidly constructs a perfectly coherent, totally believable narrative out of the tiny, limited scraps of data it actually has. And it uses our self-schemas, our core values and beliefs, to just fill in all the blank spaces. Imagine this exact cognitive substitution happening in real time. Step 1, you are someone who highly values discipline. It's a core part of who you are. Step 2, you watch a colleague walk in late. Step 3, thanks to YCAIT, you don't check for traffic reports or wonder about a family emergency. Your brain just rapidly labels it as laziness. You entirely skip over complex situational factors just to protect your own worldview. Our brains are constantly pulling these tricks to save energy. The mind does this little bait and switch. Instead of answering the really difficult, nuanced question, hey, what actually caused this person to behave this way? It substitutes in a simple, ego-protecting question. Has this person violated my standards? It feels like you're making an objective judgment, but actually, scratch that, it's really just a mental reflex. The psychologist Anthony Greenwald actually coined the term totalitarian ego to describe this. He pointed out that the ego is continuously reconstructing memories and interpreting reality in whatever way preserves a coherent, positive sense of self. Think of it like a totalitarian regime controlling the news broadcast so it always looks good. Your ego controls your perception of others to make absolutely sure you always remain the hero, the victim, or the purely objective observer in your own life story. Let's look at Section 4, turning judgment into empathy through self-awareness. Now listen, having a totalitarian ego does not make you a bad person. It literally just makes you a normal human being. We really need to normalize this. Judgment is a completely natural component of social cognition. Your brain is just trying to create a little order and security in a really chaotic world. But once you recognize that every judgment is essentially a mirror, these moments of criticism can transform into profound opportunities for self-reflection. You can actually use your own judgments as diagnostic tools for your mental well-being. Because of that, I'm going to prescribe a new mental habit for you. Instead of rushing to conclusions about someone else, I want you to just pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what within my own experiences, values, or insecurities is being activated right now? When you feel that hot surge of righteous annoyance, turn the spotlight inward. Ask yourself why that specific trait is getting under your skin so much. Because here is the beautiful truth of the whole thing. The mirror of the mind does not exist to shame us. Self-awareness creates flexibility, it creates humility, and it breeds genuine empathy. When we start to understand our own darker aspects, our own projections, and those sneaky cognitive shortcuts, we stop seeing enemies everywhere. We become vastly more humane toward ourselves and toward everyone around us. Our time for this explainer session is just about up, but I do want to leave you with a little bit of homework, a final provocative thought to take with you out into the world today. Next time you judge someone, what are you hiding? Just let that question sit with you. Let it challenge you the next time you find yourself internally criticizing a stranger in a cafe or a coworker at the office. Thank you so much for doing this valuable work with me today. Until next time, stay curious about your own mind.